Captain Elias Carter had been in worse situations, just not many. The warship's council chamber was cavernous, dimly lit by cold blue phosphorescent panels embedded in the obsidian walls. The Zathri, towering reptilian bipeds with obsidian scales and glowing ember-like eyes, sat in an imposing semicircle, their massive war spears planted in the floor. Their leader, Overlord Veractun, loomed at the center, flanked by his elite warlords. Elias, draped in the formal navy blue uniform of the United Terran Diplomatic Corps, stood calmly at the center of the room. He was a negotiator, not a soldier. His team, however, was a mix of both. To his right, Dr. Olivia Park, a brilliant scientist with sharp mind and sharper tongue, adjusted the holographic display on her wrist, analyzing Zathri energy signatures. She never went anywhere unprepared. To his left, Sergeant Miguel Boomer Vasquez, the mission security specialist, a title that vastly undersold his enthusiasm for explosives, stood with arms crossed, scrutinizing their hosts as if mentally tallying structural weaknesses. And beside him, Ensign Ravi Patel, the youngest and most idealistic among them, vibrated with barely contained enthusiasm. "We're standing on the war world of Raxtal Prime," he whispered, his awe completely undampened by the sheer hostility in the room. "Do you know how historic this is?" Elias exhaled slowly. "Kid, let's make sure we survive long enough for history care." He turned his attention back to Overlord Veractun, who had yet to say a word. Silence in Zathri culture was a test. The weaker party always spoke first, giving the stronger one leverage. Elias, however, had studied them well. He stood his ground, waiting. A full minute passed. Then two. Finally, the Overlord's voice rumbled through the chamber. "We expected an army. We received a handful of diplomats." His mouth twisted in something between amusement and disdain. "Explain." Elias smiled, diplomatic, but firm. "Because we don't need an army, Overlord. We came to discuss peace." The assembled Zathri warlords hissed, their scales flaring a deeper shade of crimson, Zathri body language for deep offense. Elias barely resisted a sigh. They were already insulted, and he'd only spoken one sentence. Veractun leaned forward. "Peace." He spat the word like venom. "Humans have spread across the stars like mold on old stone. Your worlds breed weakness. Your species lacks honor." He slammed his war spear against the ground. "We do not negotiate with prey." Boomer muttered under his breath. "Wow, I love these guys already." Olivia shot him a look before stepping forward. "With respect, Overlord, humanity has no interest in war with the Zathri Empire. A conflict between us would be costly, for both sides." Veractun's ember-like eyes narrowed. "A war is costly for the losing side, human." Elias had expected this. The Zathri were a warrior culture to their core. Conquest and battle weren't just strategies. They were their purpose. He'd spent months studying their history, their rigid caste system, their unshakable belief that honor came only through domination. He clasped his hands behind his back. "With all due respect, Overlord, humanity is not so easily conquered. We're adaptable, resilient. Enough." The Overlord rose to his full height, nearly 10 feet of imposing muscle and battle-scarred armor. "You believe yourselves equals. You are not." His voice darkened. "You did not come here to negotiate. You came here to surrender." The silence that followed was suffocating. Elias kept his expression unreadable, but inwardly he cursed. They never intended to listen. The Zathri hadn't come to discuss terms. They had come to dictate them. Ravi took a half-step forward, his youthful idealism undeterred. "With all due respect, Overlord, isn't the mark of great empire the ability to coexist with others, not just conquer them?" A few of the warlords chuckled, a guttural, grating sound. Veractun's lips curled into something resembling a smirk. "Ah, the dreamer. Every species has one." He leaned in slightly. "You wish for coexistence, human? Then kneel before me." Ravi stiffened. Olivia looked ready to punch the Overlord herself. Boomer subtly adjusted his stance, his hand drifting toward his belt, where Elias knew he had smuggled at least 3 unauthorized explosives onto the diplomatic vessel. Elias had to act fast. He straightened his posture, keeping his voice even. You misunderstand, Overlord. Humanity does not kneel. The warlords erupted into hissing outrage. Varric slammed his spear down again, sparking blue energy through the chamber floor. Then you have made your choice. Elias allowed himself a small, tired sigh. Let me guess. War. Varric bared his teeth. War. Ravi looked crushed. Olivia scowled. Boomer, on the other hand, looked unreasonably excited. Elias resisted the urge to rub his temples. Well, that was fast. The Overlord gestured, and armed guards surrounded them instantly. Zathri warriors, clad in obsidian armor, raised plasma rifles. Varric voice rumbled with finality. Your ship will be impounded. You will be held as honored prisoners until we decide the terms of your species' annihilation. Boomer snorted. Honored prisoners? Oh, that's cute. Elias glanced sideways. Boomer, not now. The sergeant shrugged. I mean, we could go peacefully, or he let the thought hang, already calculating mayhem. Elias sighed. So much for diplomacy. As the guards moved in, he met Olivia's gaze. He didn't need to say it aloud. We need an exit plan. Fast. And Olivia, already scanning the room with that sharp, calculating mind of hers, gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. Their mission had failed, but the real fight had just begun. The phrase, honored prisoners, turned out to be a fascinating bit of Zathri linguistic deception. Elias Carter and his team weren't thrown into damp cells or dragged off in chains. Instead, they were escorted at spear point into a heavily guarded guest suite aboard the Zathri warship Viractal, a fortress of black steel and burning plasma engines. The chamber, as spacious as it was, had no windows, no external terminals, and only one door guarded by two heavily armed sentries. So, basically, a prison with nicer furniture. Olivia paced, arms crossed. I don't know what I find more offensive. The fact that they didn't listen to a word we said, or the fact that they think we're dumb enough to just sit here and wait for execution. Boomer lounged on one of the massive Zathri-sized chairs, his boots up on a low obsidian table. I mean, we could always not escape. He grinned. Really sell the whole helpless human thing. Elias shot him a look. Boomer? What? I'm just saying, it'd make the jailbreak way funnier. Ravi, who had remained quiet since their capture, suddenly spoke. Maybe we don't need a jailbreak. He leaned forward, clasping his hands. Maybe we can still reason with them. Olivia stopped pacing. Patel, her voice was gentle, but firm. You heard them. They don't want diplomacy. They want war. Yes, but... Ravi hesitated. What if they don't all want war? That gave Elias pause. As much as he hated to admit it, Ravi had a point. The Zathri Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds, but it wasn't a monolith. Every empire had factions, dissenters, those who questioned the old ways. The problem was finding them. Elias sighed and ran a hand through his graying hair. All right, let's put a pin in that idea while we work on a more immediate problem. He gestured to the sealed door. How do we get out of here? Boomer grinned. Funny you should ask. Olivia groaned. No explosions. Boomer gasped in mock offense. You wound me. Document. This is a diplomatic escape. He dug into the pockets of his tactical vest and produced a small, thumb-sized pulse charge. This baby doesn't explode. It just causes minor electrical mayhem. Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. Define minor. Boomer shrugged. It'll knock out the lights and scramble the guards' weapons for about 20 seconds. Plenty of time for us to make a graceful exit. Ravi perked up. How graceful are we talking? Boomer grinned wider. That depends. How fast can you run? The plan in motion. Elias didn't love the plan. In fact, he hated it. But with no better options and the looming threat of an impending Zathri war, they had no choice. Boomer set the pulse charge near the base of the door. Get ready, he murmured. When the lights go out, we move fast. Elias glanced at Olivia. I'm assuming you already have a next step in mind. She smirked. Please, I'm already 5 steps ahead. She gestured to the holopad on her wrist, the interface glowing faintly. The Zathri use a centralized command network to coordinate ship-wide security. If I can get access, I can disrupt their internal communications. Elias arched a brow. Meaning? Meaning I can make the ship think we're everywhere except where we actually are. Ravi grinned. I love this plan. Boomer grinned back. See? The kid gets it. Elias just sighed. Set it off. Boomer tapped the detonator. The pulse charge sent a ripple of blue energy to the walls, and in an instant the lights flickered and died. A second later, they heard the confused shouts of Zathri guards, fumbling with dead weapons. Elias didn't wait. Move. They slipped through the door, sprinting down the corridor. Behind them, the guard were already regaining their bearings, but Olivia was quick. She tapped furiously at her holopad, rerouting internal sensors to display false locations. Alarms blared. The warship came alive with Zathri voices barking orders. But Olivia grinned as she watched their confusion unfold. Now they think we're in 3 different sectors at once. She swiped at her screen. Make that 4. Boomer chuckled. Beautiful chaos. They raced through the twisting halls, ducking past security checkpoints. Occasionally, they encountered confused Zathri warriors running in the opposite direction, chasing ghosts Olivia had fabricated. But time was running out. The warship's automated systems would reboot soon. We need to reach the hangar, Elias said. Once we're back on the Concorde, we can... A deep rumble cut through the ship. Elias barely had time to react before the floor lurched beneath them, sending them staggering into the walls. A low, ominous growl echoed through the halls, followed by a voice over the loudspeakers. Humans! It was Overlord Veractune, and he sounded amused. Did you think you could outmaneuver the Zathri? That you could escape my warship? Olivia checked her holopad. He just locked down all hangar access. Boomer groaned. Of course he did. Veractune's voice deepened into something dangerously pleased. You call yourselves adaptable. Resilient. I welcome the challenge. A pause. Then, with chilling certainty. Run. It will make the hunt more entertaining. The comm cut out. A long, tense silence followed. Finally, Boomer clapped his hands together. Well, that's horrifying. Ravi swallowed. He's toying with us. Elias exhaled slowly. They were no longer escapees. They were prey. He looked at Olivia. Tell me you have a plan B. Olivia tapped her chin. Define B. Boomer grinned. Something fun. Elias sighed. Then let's go with that. And with the sound of Zathri hunting parties closing in, the humans ran. The warship's corridors pulsed with crimson emergency lights, casting jagged shadows as Elias and his team ran. Heavy, clawed footsteps echoed behind them. Zathri warriors in full battle gear, closing fast. This is the worst diplomatic mission I've ever been on, Elias muttered. Boomer, sprinting beside him, grinned. And here I thought you liked the challenge. Ahead, Olivia's eyes flicked between the twisting corridors and the glowing holopad strapped to her wrist. We need to get to the auxiliary control deck. If I can break into their system, I can override the lockdown and open a path to the Concorde. Where is it? Elias asked, dodging a sharp turn. 2 levels down. Boomer glanced back. Slight problem. Big lizards, lots of guns, and none of them are rooting for Team Humanity. Olivia barely glanced up. Then distract them. Boomer's grin widened. Now that I can do. He grabbed a small, silver disc from his belt, flicked a switch, and tossed it behind them. The device hit the floor and erupted in a blinding pulse of light. A chorus of furious hissing and snarls followed as their pursuers skidded to a halt, momentarily disoriented. Ravi coughed, rubbing his eyes. A flashbang? You carry flashbangs on diplomatic missions? Boomer shrugged. You don't. Elias grabbed Ravi's arm and pulled him forward. Debrief later, run now. A new plan in motion. They reached a stairwell and took it 2 at a time, descending deeper into the warship's underbelly. Olivia led the way, scanning her holopad. The auxiliary control deck is just ahead. If we... A steel blast door slammed shut in front of them. Olivia stopped mid-stride. Oh, come on. A deep, mocking chuckle rumbled through the intercom. Impressive. Varric Toon's voice oozed amusement. Your species has spirit, but spirit alone will not save you. Elias pressed a hand against the cold metal of the sealed door. He's hurting us. Ravi's breath was heavy from running. If he wanted us dead, he'd have shot us already. Boomer wiped sweat from his brow. Great. So we're pets now. Olivia scowled, furiously tapping her holopad. No way. I'm not playing his game. Elias turned to her. Can you get past this? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Given time? Sure. But considering we have a bunch of bloodthirsty reptilian warlords breathing down our necks, not ideal conditions. Ravi brightened. Then maybe we don't go through. Olivia sighed. Unless you've got a magic teleportation device. I don't see. No, hear me out. Ravi gestured to corridor walls. Zathri ships are modular, right? Built in segments? Which means... Boomer snapped his fingers. Weak points. Yes, kid. Elias blinked. Wait, are we seriously? Boomer was already digging through his gear. I knew carrying just enough explosives would pay off. Olivia facebombed. We talked about this, Vasquez. Boomer winked. And yet here we are, and you need my very legal and completely ethical problem-solving skills. Elias sighed. Make it fast. Boomer planted a series of small charges along the wall and set the timer. Stand back. A sharp boom sent shrapnel flying, and when the smoke cleared, a gaping hole led into the ship's ventilation shafts. Olivia stared. You blew up a wall. Boomer dusted off his hands. And look, instant door. Elias exhaled. Fine. Everyone in. One by one, they crawled into the tight metallic passageway, Boomer sealing the entrance behind them. The turnabout. They moved silently through the ventilation system, weaving through the belly of the warship. Olivia whispered, the Zathri rely on honor-based warfare. Deception isn't their strength. Elias nodded. Which means we outmaneuver, not outfight. Boomer grinned. I prefer both. Finally, they reached a grate overlooking the auxiliary control deck. Below, Zathri technicians manned controls, oblivious to the humans above. Olivia smirked. Now we turn the tables. She pulled a data spike from her belt and connected it to the ship's network through her holopad. I'm rerouting security feeds to make it look like we're still running through the upper decks. Elias grinned. So while they chase ghosts... Boomer cracked his knuckles. We steal their ship from under their snouts. Ravi peered through the grate. Minor issue. There are 6 heavily armed Zathri down there. Boomer smirked. Not for long. A moment later, a deafening alarm blared through the ship. The Zathri below froze as a deep, artificial voice rang out in their language. Warning. Human infiltration in command deck. All forces report immediately. The technicians panicked. Within seconds, they rushed out, weapons drawn, heading toward the non-existent intruders. Boomer chuckled. Works every time. Elias dropped down first, landing in a crouch. The others followed, Olivia already diving into the ship's control system. She grinned. I just shut down their internal sensors. They officially have no idea where we are. Ravi frowned. And unofficially? Boomer cracked his neck. Unofficially, I bet they're real mad. Elias checked the display. We're almost clear. Olivia unlocked the hangar. She nodded, fingers flying. Done. But we have maybe 10 minutes before they override me. Elias smiled. Then let's not waste them. Boomer's grin widened. I love this job. The Overlord's challenge. As they bolted toward the hangar, Varric Toon's voice returned, colder this time. You fight like thieves in the dark, not warriors. Do you think deception will save your kind? Elias tapped his comms. It's not deception, Overlord. It's strategy. Varric Toon's laughter rumbled. Then let us see how long your strategy lasts. The calm cut. Elias got tightened. I don't like that. Boomer exhaled. Why do I feel like something big is coming? They reached the final corridor leading to the hangar and stopped cold. Standing between them and their ship was a massive, armored Zathri warlord, clad in ceremonial battle plating. His glowing eyes burned with anticipation as he drew a massive plasma sword, the weapon crackling with energy. Veractun's voice echoed once more. "Face my champion, humans, or die as cowards." Boomer smirked. "Well, that's a twist." Elias cracked his knuckles. "Then let's give him a fight." The Zathri champion stood motionless in the corridor, his plasma blade humming with lethal promise. 8 feet of muscle, armor, and a lifetime of warfare, a living testament to the Zathri belief in battle as the highest form of honor. Elias Carter had seen a lot of terrifying things in his career, but this might top the list. Boomer let out a low whistle. "Okay, I'll say it, he's got presence." Olivia muttered, "We do not have time for this." The champion's voice was like grinding stone. "One of you must face me. Single combat. It is the only path forward." Elias exhaled sharply. Of course. The Zathri obsession with warrior trials. Before he could respond, Boomer cracked his neck and stepped forward. Elias grabbed his arm. "Boomer." "No." Boomer just grinned. "Relax, boss. I got this." "Do you?" Olivia hissed. "He's the size of a tank." "Yeah," Boomer said, "but tanks don't think outside the box." Before anyone could stop him, he stepped into the champion's shadow. "All right, big guy," Boomer said, rolling his shoulders. "Let's dance." Brains over brawn. The champion moved like lightning for something so massive, lunging with an arcing plasma strike that could have cleaved Boomer in two. But Boomer was already gone, ducking under blade and rolling aside. The champion turned, eyes narrowing. He swung again, faster this time. A brutal overhead slash. Boomer dodged left, laughing. "Man, you are predictable." Elias realized what he was doing. He's not trying to win. He's stalling. And the champion? He was getting angry. Boomer stayed just out of reach, taunting, baiting, frustrating him. Each attack was wild, less controlled. Elias saw the opening. Olivia. She nodded, already moving, fingers flying over her holopad. The champion roared, lunging forward one last time, and Boomer dove backward, right as the floor beneath the Zathri vanished. The gravity panel shorted out, sending the champion hurling up into the ceiling. A sickening crunch. The warrior slumped, stunned. Boomer brushed dust off his sleeves. "And that's why humans don't do honor fights." Olivia smirked. "Beautifully executed." Elias grabbed Boomer's arm. "No time to celebrate. Move." The grand escape. They burst into the hangar, sprinting toward the Concorde. The sleek, human-made ship was primed and ready, its engines humming in standby. But as they ran, the intercom crackled. "Veractun, I commend you, humans. Fear defied me this long." The hangar shuddered, bulkhead doors slamming shut. Gun turrets whirred to life, targeting the Concorde. "Your cleverness ends here." Elias cursed. "He's sealing us in." Olivia skidded to a stop, scanning controls. "I need 30 seconds override." Boomer raised his pulse rifle. "We don't have 30. Elias gritted his teeth. "No time. No options. Unless—" He tapped his comms. "Overlord, you want an honorable fight, right?" Silence. Then Veractun spoke. "Go on." Elias took a slow breath. "Then let us go. Fight us in space. Ship to ship. If you're so confident in Zathri superiority, what's the harm?" The silence stretched. Boomer raised a brow. Bold move, boss." Elias ignored him, heart-hammering. Finally, Veractun laughed. "Amusing. Very well. Human. We shall settle this in the stars." The turrets powered down. The bulkhead doors groaned open. Elias didn't wait. "Go!" They raced into the Concorde, engines roaring to life as they blasted into space. The duel among the stars. The moment they cleared the hangar, the Zathri warship turned to pursue. Boomer hooped. "I love this job." Elias took the controls, maneuvering fast, dodging an onslaught of plasma fire. Ravi scanned the readouts. "They're faster, stronger, and more heavily armed. We can't outrun them." Elias smiled grimly. We won't have to. Olivia's voice was tight. You do have a plan, right? Elias' hands flew over the controls. Remember what Olivia said? The Zathri don't do deception. He cut the Concord's thrusters, flipping them into a controlled spin, a move no Zathri warship would ever expect. The enemy ship raced forward, overcompensating, and in that split second, Olivia fired a full ion burst directly into their exposed thrusters. The Zathri warship shuddered violently, systems failing, momentum sending them spinning into deep space. Boomer hooped. And that, my scaly friends, is why you don't underestimate humans. The aftermath. Silence filled the cabin. Then, Ravi exhaled, laughing in disbelief. Did we just win? Olivia leaned back, rubbing her eyes. I need a drink. Boomer grinned. You earned it, document. Elias let out a breath, shoulders finally relaxing. All right, let's go home. As the Concorde turned toward Earth, Veractun's voice came one last time. Low, thoughtful. You are unlike any species we have faced. Elias smirked. Get used to it. The channel cut, and humanity had just made its first true enemy among the stars.